The Ravens Preview Show with Andy Pollin starts right now.
It wasn't perfect, it wasn't pretty, but it was the Ravens.
Listen to all Ravens broadcasts right here on 6:30 a.m., the ESPN 630 app, or ESPN630DC.com.
And with 1:17 left to play, the Hayes in the barn.
Now, here's Andy Pollin.
Ravens playing Monday Night Football this week as they go to Los Angeles to play the Chargers. Our coverage here on ESPN 630 will start at 7:30, which is the third edition of the Harbaugh Bowl. John Harbaugh, the longtime coach of the Ravens, taking his team out west to play his brother's Chargers. And they faced off twice when Jim was coaching the San Francisco 49ers, once in the regular season and once in the Super Bowl, and John is 2-0, but we'll see what happens on Monday night. Joining us to preview this is Luke Jones of WNST, and I never thought I'd begin a conversation in talking about the Ravens with a kicking crisis question, but Justin Tucker, who, and with what he's done this year, has dropped from being the most accurate kicker of all time. Justin Tucker, who's been automatic, holds the record for the longest field goal in NFL history, 66 yards, is struggling. John Harbaugh says they're not going to bring anybody in to compete with him, but what is the level of concern, particularly among the fan base, about someone who's been so reliable over the years?
I mean, I think there's concern. There has to be because of what you just said. I mean, you're talking about a track record, a guy that has already been called the greatest kicker in NFL history, putting aside the most accurate, which, as you mentioned, he recently fell down from that because of the year he's having. But it's just so uncharacteristic. I mean, every kicker misses kicks, Justin Tucker included. But for this to, it started last year with him not being maybe quite as consistent from beyond 50 yards, and it's gotten worse this year. It's unnerving. I mean, it's just one of those things you just come to expect, and when suddenly someone's not doing what you expect when they've done it at such a high level for such a long time, it begs questions. It makes you wonder, are they at a point where they need to at least be thinking about bringing in someone to take a look, which, as you alluded to, John Harbaugh said they're not at that place. He did provide the caveat at this point. Mm-hmm. I do think that, and I think with that, you need to start seeing progress. I was just doing some radio on my own station, and you're kicking inside on Monday night in Los Angeles. This should be a get well kind of game for him in terms of you don't have to deal with the elements. You're not dealing with the open end zone at the place formerly known as Heinz Field. You're not kicking outside in Baltimore as the snow falls in this area right now. But he needs to start making some progress, and I think the best way that I have thought to put it is I don't think they're at the place where they're looking to bring someone in at this point. They're certainly not looking to cut him or release him or anything like that. But I think you need to at least start working on the kicker Rolodex. And I don't mean that even necessarily for the rest of this year. It might be as simple as it's a next off-season type deal where you might be looking to bring in a kicker to at least push him, to at least compete. So it hasn't been disastrous, but it needs to be better because you're talking about a football team that has Super Bowl aspirations, and the last thing you want is having a kicker issue all of a sudden.
Yeah, that'd be my point. I mean, if he did cost them last week's game, we could debate that, but they did hold Pittsburgh to only field goals, and he missed 2, and maybe the complexion of the game changes. You can survive that in November. When you get into January and it's one and done, and you're lining up for what is a makeable field goal for him, like for example what happened with the Bears and the Packers last week, and you have that scenario and he misses, it's like, man, we threw away a whole season sticking with a kicker who we knew was struggling and maybe finished. Who knows? He's 35 years old.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me though the big key is, it's not as though you can bring in Harrison Butker. It's not as though you can bring in Chris Boswell. It's not as though you can bring in Brandon Aubrey from the Cowboys at this point, right? I mean, the trade deadline passed, all that. So you're still posed with the choice of, for those very kicks that you just presented, those hypothetical scenarios, who are you going to trust? Complete unknown that you're going to bring in off the street, who, if he is an unknown, he's been cut or let go by someone else most likely, or are you going to try to get Justin Tucker back on track? And I do think that's the best choice for them right now. But, I mean, it's just something that you haven't come to expect. And, maybe it's just that kind of season for the Ravens because, as we haven't even talked about it, I mean, the defensive concerns they've had. So, normally the Baltimore Ravens, for most of their history, dependable kicker from Matt Stover all the way up to Justin Tucker in the history of their franchise. And defense, well, it's kind of backwards right now. So it's definitely been strange in that regard. But I still think Justin Tucker is their best option for now. But, yeah, that needs to start trending in the right direction again for it not to become a bigger problem and a bigger concern and then a more difficult conversation.
For those of you keeping score, that's 4 minutes of kicker talk, and we move on now to offense. And they are a high-scoring team, and Todd Monken has done a great job. But you brought in a Hall of Fame, probably a Hall of Fame running back in Henry, and he did not, as I understand, get a fourth-quarter carry last week, and more importantly, on the two-point conversion, was not in the game. Why are they using him as sparingly as they are, especially with a defense that's struggling that you want to keep off the field?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in agreement with you about the two-point conversion play. I mean, and this is, if you recall back to the loss in Cleveland, the Ravens had a couple short yardage situations where they took Lamar Jackson out of the equation. So I don't understand that. I'm not saying you have to give the ball to Derrick Henry in that scenario, but I don't know why you don't want him on the field as an option there. So I'm with you on that. As far as the workload in that fourth quarter, I think if you do look at it and you know, I think it's very easy, and this isn't just with Derrick Henry and the Ravens. I think this is anywhere where you can kind of look at the box score and say, well, so-and-so should get more carries, or this wide receiver should get more targets, whatever. I do think if you look at the game flow and you look at how that fourth quarter went, they only had 2 drives in the last quarter, first of all. And he did have a couple touches early on. It was at the very end of the third quarter, but they kind of got in a position where they had penalties, and there were a couple times where he had the ball, it was nullified by a penalty, and then they're in kind of a second and long, third and long scenarios where he's not going to get the ball anyway. So I hear what you're saying on that. The one thing I'll point out is you kind of look at how that game broke down for them in Pittsburgh on Sunday. Derrick Henry did break the one nice run, but he had 13 carries for 65 yards. 31 of those came on that one carry. So, they weren't getting a whole lot with him on those early down situations. I get it. You want to keep giving them the ball, but all the penalties they had just put them in 1st and 15. They were in 1st and 20. They were in 2nd and 15. Those just are not conducive scenarios to running the ball, especially when Pittsburgh, for the most part, was bottling it up. So in the big picture, you want to get Derrick Henry the ball. But I think some of the issue on Sunday, 1, the penalties, 2, they didn't run block particularly well, and I think that's something else that hurt them on a day that just wasn't good for the offense overall. Yeah,
the penalties are clearly under John Harbaugh's skin. I think the rant he went on in Monday's news conference went about 2.5 minutes. So, he's upset about that. And here's another thing. The schedule is tough for them coming up. And a loss, they're 3-point favorites on the road on Monday night. But if they lose this, 7-5. For most teams in the NFL, 7-5 is kind of, nervous time for being a playoff team. For a team that was considered to be certainly a Super Bowl contender, having gotten to the AFC title game last year, at what point do you start to think, maybe what we're doing here isn't exactly right?
Well, I mean, I think it's just it really does lend itself to the frustration, because I think anyone who sees this team play on a weekly basis, you see Super Bowl capability. You see Super Bowl level talent, especially in the offense. Right now, the defense and the pass defense, and I'm sure we'll get to that in a moment, but you see what Lamar Jackson has done. You've seen what they've done through the air. You've seen what they've done through the ground. I mean, even with Derrick Henry not having a big day this past week, still right there at the top of the leaderboard in rushing. Saquon Barkley, of course, having a great year as well. But they've done everything. But, you look at it and say, okay, well, they're 7-4. That doesn't translate to being a top 2 or 3 team in the entire NFL, as it feels like from a talent level they could be. You look at their point differential, for example. I mean, I think they're like 8th right now in point differential. So, you keep waiting for this team to take off in that way. Mm-hmm. But they certainly have had some quality wins, but then they've lost to Cleveland. They've lost to the Las Vegas Raiders. I mean, 2 of the very worst teams in the NFL right there. So you're kind of waiting for that consistency. But, and as you just alluded to, penalties have been a major issue. They've had kicking issues. And they've had a pass defense that, save for this past week looking like maybe a step in the right direction, and again, time will tell, their pass defense has been awful. So those are some major things that can really neutralize all the good things that you do. So, yeah, at some point in time, it's a matter of you need to start doing it and stacking more consistency. And, I mean, they got off to an 0-2 start. They had the 5-game winning streak. That's great. And, it's kind of been 2 steps forward, a step back, a step forward, a step back since then. So, yeah, you're waiting for it. I think they're certainly capable, but at some point you have to go out and do it. And, yeah, these next 2 weeks feel quite critical because it's not just the Chargers on Monday night, but then they come home after a cross-country flight, getting home Tuesday morning, and then the Philadelphia Eagles come to town the following Sunday. So they'll be on a short week against the Eagles, who are certainly playing way better than they were earlier in the year. So this is a pretty big 2-week stretch until they get into their bye week. And then go look at the schedule then, what looms later on in December when they play, 3 games in, I think, an 11 or 12-day period, whatever it is. So they certainly they have some challenges with the schedule that they need to make sure they're sharp because they don't want this to turn into division out of the question, higher seed out of the question, and then you're just struggling to hold on to a wild card.
Yeah, exactly. And the advantage that they had last year to be playing at home, they'd like to have that again, but that seems to be diminishing week by week. You got another good quarterback this week, so we'll see if a pass defense, which held Pittsburgh out of the end zone, can do the same on Monday night. Luke, thanks very much for the time. Appreciate it.
No problem. Take care.
That's Luke Jones of WNST as the Ravens go on the road to play in Los Angeles against the Chargers on Monday night. Coming up, the Harbaugh brothers, what they both said about this matchup. We'll get to their comments as we continue. It's the Andy Pollin Show, Ravens preview on ESPN 630.
Want to take ESPN 630 wherever you go?
Today, Junior!
Download the newly designed ESPN 630 app from the App Store on your iPhone or the Google Play Store. Use your hands-free setting or Bluetooth connection in your car.
Sensational.
And listen to us no matter how close or far you are from DC. And don't miss a second of your favorite shows from anywhere in the world.
Oh, there it is.
ESPN 630, the sports capital. Now worldwide from your phone.
More than 45,000 flights and 2.9 million passengers move through the National Airspace System each day. And every day, aviation safety professionals represented by the National Air Traffic Controllers Association are on the job, keeping travelers safe. From taxiways to takeoff, en route to landing, NATCA members put safety first. They are the caretakers of the skies, guiding both passenger and cargo air traffic to their destinations safely and efficiently. The National Air Traffic Controllers Association, NATCA, we guide you home.
At Cabinet Discounters, we truly love what we do. Transforming kitchens, bathrooms, basements, any room. Creating new ways to help you achieve your vision. And all within your budget. Plus, we've got big news. Announcing the grand opening of our 8th showroom in Frankfort, Delaware. We'll now be serving all the beaches. Plus, you'll get the same great quality and great price. To learn more about our new showroom in Frankfort, Delaware, go to CabinetDiscounters.com.
Cabinet Discounters. Great quality, great price.
Ravens on 3, 1, 2, 3.
This is the Ravens Preview Show presented by Verizon. Here's Andy Pollin.
It'll be the 16th meeting between the Ravens and the Chargers when they hook up Monday night in Los Angeles. Ravens are 3-point favorites. They lead the series 9-6 and actually played in Los Angeles last year, and the Ravens won the game 20-10 as Zay Flowers scored 2 touchdowns, one with a reception and the other running to lock up the game, 37-yarder, as the running game really did in the Chargers. Ravens outgained them 197-86. So now it's another matchup of the Harbaugh brothers. Last time we saw them was in that crazy Super Bowl in New Orleans when the lights went out in 2013. And now they're back again. Jim Harbaugh off winning a national championship at Michigan, and John Harbaugh, who continues to be the venerable coach of the Ravens. Jim Harbaugh this week on the Rich Eisen Show about the matchup.
Respect. It's love. I mean, nobody could have a better brother than I do. I mean, nobody has it better than have a brother like John Harbaugh. He is he's the toughest competitor I know, and he just really pulls it out of you. Watching the tape of the Ravens team, I've followed closely for years, but really diving into it. Down after down, play after play. I mean, the toughness, the physicality, the execution. It's just so tight. Everything is just, so tight with this football team. And you see them, to make the improvements that they make, the secondary, the the pass rush, the way they split the double team. It's just one technique after another. You see how well coached they are. I mean, it's off the charts, and the talent that they have. Gosh, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, those two are like nobody more competitive or more talented than those two players. And then down throughout the roster, it's it's kind of what we're driving for. Want to watch the Ravens or watch our team. We hope to be looking in the mirror. That's how much respect we have for the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, brotherly love. Remember last year at the championship game when John showed up like midway through the first quarter and came down to the sidelines and gave Jim a hug? That was a really cool moment. This is John Harbaugh speaking to the media this week. And when he's talking to the media here, it almost sounds like he's addressing his team as, we're kind of in the dog days of the NFL. It's late November, and, you still got a big slog of a schedule left to go. And this is him coming off a tough loss against the Pittsburgh Steelers, trying to keep his team focused as they head to Los Angeles, but also kind of delivering it through the media.
It's a week-to-week league, and that's pretty clear. I say that a lot up here, and I think we all know that. It's you can't get too high, you can't get too low. It's not as good as you think when things are going well, and you're not as bad as you think when things aren't going well. It's a long season. And we got a big game next week. So what worked last week, or what the plan was last week, whether it's play calls or who's on the field or who plays, it evolves to the next week. And you've got to look at your circumstances and meet them where they're at. Just decide what's our best avenue, strategy. What can we do to try to win this next game against an opponent that's doing the same thing against you, trying to find a way to exploit anything they can to win the game. That's just the nature of this competitive business, So it's always going to be like that, man. It's conflict, it's clashing, it's two high level, operations going against each other in battle, football battle. That's the beauty of it. That's the challenge of it. You can't get all down on yourself and start saying, we didn't do this right, we didn't do that right, we're going to beat ourselves up. You feel bad about it, but then you pick yourself off the mat and you go to work because we got a big game coming up. And if we win this game, we're going to be in great shape. And if we don't win this game, it's not going to be the end of the world. That's just a fact. And we'll go to the next game. So we got a bunch of fighters. We got a bunch of competitors. And we're going to make the best decisions we can that are best for our team to play the best football that they can the very next week coming up.
All right, ready, break? Okay. Two more things, both of which we discussed with Luke Jones of WNST. The kicking issues with Justin Tucker. He is 6 for 10 on the year and has dropped from being the most accurate kicker in NFL history. You wouldn't expect to hear this question over the last decade to John Harbaugh, but it came on Monday.
Is there any thought to bringing in competition for Justin Tucker as tryout candidates or anything?
At this point?
Yeah.
No, there's no thought to that. I mean, you have to find that competition first, just if you're going to be blunt about it, where is that competition? That would be one thing. And the best option right now is to get Justin, back on point, because he's fully capable of doing it. Certainly haven't lost any confidence in Justin Tucker. You saw that on the 54-yarder that we set him out for, and he drilled it. So that's the Justin Tucker that he wants to see, that we all want to see on every kick. And he's definitely our best option. And he's going to make a lot of kicks. I really believe that going forward. But it's up to him. It's up to him and the guys he works with every day to make those balls go straight. So that's not competition right now at this time. No, that's not something we want for Justin. We just got to compete to get better, make those kicks.
Yeah, he threw that in. Got to make those kicks. We have confidence. Got to make those kicks. Last thing, and this has been a lingering issue with them and the questions of the number of carries that Derrick Henry is getting. Back in the day, a back like that, you'd expect 25 carries a game, every game. He's about 13 carries a game. And more importantly, from the game last week where they went for 2 and a play that just, ended in disaster with Lamar Jackson trying to throw it up desperately into the end zone, Derrick Henry wasn't on the field. This is the reason for it, as Harbaugh talked about it on Monday.
Derrick Henry's a great football player, and you want him out there situationally, but he's not out there for every play. So like I said after the game, that's the play that was called. That's the personnel group that it was set up in through a lot of game planning. I mean, coaches they're in early and they're home late, and they try to put the best. We all try to put the best plan we can together and come up with the best plays. And when it doesn't work out, it hurts. It's bad, and you really feel disappointed about it because it's your job and it's what you want to get done well. So all the little nuances within that are all things that disappoint you. But every player is not on the field for every play. I'd like to have had a better play there, and I'd like to have had a successful play. So you look back on it, and that's how you feel about it. You feel bad about it.
Well, it still doesn't make a lot of sense. It's a play where you have the biggest back and a Hall of Fame back. Whether you use him or not on the play, you got to have him as an option there. You got to make the defense think you're going to give him the football, and they didn't have him out there, and it just was an ugly-looking, foolish play, I thought, with Lamar Jackson failing to get them with the 2-point conversion. But they got a chance to get right on Monday night. Again, that's an 8:15 kickoff. Our coverage here will start at 7:30 as the Ravens try to get their 8th win of the year. If they lose, they drop to 7-5, and then things really get kind of nervous. I want to thank Luke Jones of WNST for coming on today to talk about it. Also, Isaac Kuhn-Harris for running the show, and thanks to all of you who listened. Bram is coming up next, and I'll see you Monday morning at 9 a.m.